So this is video number 3 in the series, and in this video I'm going to show you how to bind this DX8 radio to the AR8000 receiver and also to a standard Spectrum AR6100E receiver and also to the E-Flight Beast. Now slightly different variations in each of those because the receivers will either be DSMX compatible or not. And now that we've done the firmware upgrade in our radio, you can see in the top right hand side, right alongside the word Spectrum, you've got a little DSM2. Okay, now I'll show you how we actually change that to DSMX if the receiver is compatible. You have to turn the radio off. Now while holding that roller, turn the radio on. Keep holding the roller until you get that screen. Now you can scroll all the way down to something called frame rate. When you have frame rate, you have the option of going to 11 milliseconds, but only use that if you have digital servos. So I'm not using that on my aircraft for the moment. And down here you've got the selection between DSM2 or DSMX. Okay, so we've selected X. Now we'll go back to list, and the radio is going to reboot. Sorry, go back one more level. There it goes. Okay, now it's still showing DSM2 in the setting. So what you have to do is just power off the radio, and we're going to actually bind it to the AR8000 receiver. So I'm turning that off. Now, here's your AR8000, and I'll just insert the bind plug. I've got it connected up to a battery already. Okay, a bit clumsy with this. Okay, there we go. So that's in. I'll turn on, and you see that you've got both the satellite and the main receiver flashing. So I'll just put them out of the picture while we turn on the radio. Now you need to put them about 1 meter apart. One thing I've noticed is that if you're too close, it's actually not going to bind. So what I want you to notice in this one is when I turn it on, and the bind button on this radio is up here. So as you turn it on, you need to be holding that button. Just watch, because the transmitter actually reads the receiver and calculates what mode it is capable of, which I thought was very clever. So anyway, let's have a look at how that works. Put the receiver about 1 meter away, it's off to my right. I've turned it on, it's in the bind flash, and let's have a look at this binding. Hold it, and it says binding, and it's got DSMX 11 milliseconds because it can read what the receiver is capable of. Okay. Alright, now if I bring that receiver back into picture, you'll see both the light on the satellite and on the main receiver is steady. Okay, so that means we've had a successful bind. Turn off that receiver, unplug the binding plug. You'll see now in this window it says DSMX in the top right hand side. So it's now operating in the DSMX, which is a frequency hopping mode. Okay, so that's it has to actually be specifically set initially, and then it has to be bound to the receiver that is DSMX compatible. Okay, let's have a look at binding it to something else. Okay, pressing both of these buttons quickly takes you to the model select memory, and I've got the Beast set in there. Selecting the Beast, and it reboots, and you'll see the Beast is in DSM2. I'll go through the process just so you can see how that all works again. Turning off the radio. Now these E-Flight aircraft are fairly easy to bind. All you do is plug the battery in. If they don't sense a signal, the light starts to flash. And there you can see it flashing. And now what we do, move it about 1 meter away, press the bind button, turn it on, and hold it. It's binding. Now release the button. See how it says DSM2 1024 22 milliseconds. So it knows that the receiver in the Beast is not DSMX compatible, and it wouldn't matter what setting I set the radio to. Even if I selected DSMX mode, in the radio for this bind, it would automatically default back to DSM2. So I thought that was very clever, and it works nicely. Okay, and I've already flown this aircraft a couple of times on this radio. Alright, so that's your non-DSMX bind and fly aircraft. Now the other thing I will do is just bind it to this AR6100E, which is obviously non-DSMX as well. And I need to just get a bind plug. And the battery. Okay, so it's in bind mode, and we'll just need to select a different model memory, and I'll just select a vacant one. Okay, now turning this receiver on. There it is, flashing in bind mode. Actually, I might have to do that again because I had the transmitter on. So turning the transmitter off, turning on the receiver in bind mode, it's flashing. Now turning on the receiver, sorry, the transmitter, holding the bind plug. There it is, DSM2, 102422 milliseconds. Now one thing I've noticed, I did explain it earlier, is if it's too close it won't actually successfully bind, and that's what's happened in this case. I didn't get a good bind, so I'm going to have to try that again. I'll turn that off, turn the receiver off. There it is flashing. Now I'm going to move it a metre away this time, and we'll try again. Holding the bind button, turning on the transmitter, releasing the bind button. And we've got a good bind that time. Okay, so there you can see we've got a good bind, and the servo is moving in conjunction with the transmitter. So very important that when you do your bind, you're not too close. I found a metre, even 2 metres away is optimum. Okay, so thanks for watching, and we'll do now a side-by-side comparison of the DX8 and the 8FG. Thanks for watching.